This is Nick Peterson with Lab 3 for electric motors and drives. So for this lab, we got our motor all wired up, we got all this wired. For this, we ended up having to wire it to a separate power supply on the back. Here we have our power supply coming in, going into separate points here through our contactor, relay right here, connected to our button. So when it's all powered on, so we'll see it's not on right now, but when the button is pushed, the button turns on. Release the button, motor turns off. Nick Peterson, Lab 3 for electrical motors and drives. This is our 2-wire setup. We have 2-wire coming into here to our button, similar to our last setup. Relays, contactor, motor, power supply. So use the switch, motor's off. Flip the switch, motor turns on. Flip the switch again, motor turns off. Nick Peterson, Lab 3, electric motors and drives, portion 3. So this one was the 3-wire setup. So our power comes through here. Contactors, we got our push buttons this time. Motor, other power source. So we got 3-phase coming in here. The contactor or relays. And this time we have it hooked up, so we're using the 13 and 14 over here. And this will keep the power going when this button is released until the shut-off button, in this case, is pressed. So when we press the green, activates the relay, everything stays on. But when the red button is pushed, we should see that the motor is turned off. Like such. This is Nick Peterson with Lab 3 for electrical motors and drives. Our final setup, forward and reverse motion. So power supply, motor, collector switch. To do this, we had our phases come into here. So if you look at the little chart on here, we see that if the switch is set to the left, SS1 and SS3 are closed. So when that happens, it makes the motor spin. And in this case, when it's to the left, it makes the motor spin counterclockwise. And when we see that the electric switch is turned to the right, SS2 and SS4 are turned on. So to get the motor to spin clockwise, we ran these wires here to the phases. They get them to spin in the opposite direction. So when we do that, we see that turn to the left, turn on, turn off. You'll see that relative to the back of the motor, the shaft is spinning counterclockwise. And then when we turn the selector switch on to the right and off real quick, and relative to the back of the motor, we will see that the shaft is spinning clockwise. And that's how we got our forward and reverse motion.